Welcome everybody to this week's episode of Garage Groove. As always, thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to be concentrating more on the music because we are waiting on parts. We'll give you a quick rundown of where we are at with Sophian's bike. And of course, we're waiting on parts for Imran's BMX. So let's take a quick look at that, and then we're going to turn to music today. Okay, so here is Sophian's bike. We have got a lot of new parts. We got new exhaust. We got the new number plates, which we went with the vintage style. We got a nice gold chain. We got our new wheels. Here's the front wheel.
They're brand new.
And this thing is already looking kind of vintage.
So, and we got the gold handlebars too.
Yeah, we got handlebars put on.
We got these red anodized levers.
Yup.
The brake lever. Then we did do the front fender. The front fender turned out really good. Then we have this is mock done, but we're trying to make this bike look more vintage. So we have this round plate, for example, like on the Yamazuki, you can see. So it looks more vintage looking. So we kind of went with that vibe.
Yep. And we have the yellow background coming for that. This is a XR100 fender that we got and we painted. Turned out really nice. We have our engine taken apart. You can see the cylinder, the head, all of that stuff. We're just waiting on the parts. So today, let's get on with what we got going on today. Today's a beautiful episode, man. We're going to be checking out one of my favorite things, man. We are looking at a 1973 Marshall JTM 45. This is a clone, and this is a very special amp. It was built by a guru back in the day. And I still, if you guys, anybody knows information on this, this is called the Evil Super Amp. It's a JTM 45. You can see it was all handmade. In fact, all of these things back here, look at that. It's all inspired by the late, great Jim Marshall and Ken Brand UK. Design concept built by Eddie Schaefer, Stone Lake, Wisconsin, USA. That's what I know about this amp. And I've had it for a long time. This is serial number 1314. If anybody knows anything more about this amp, please let me know. I'd like to know. So what we have this Marshall sitting on is a very special little cabinet. This is a Fender 4/8 cabinet. 4/8? That sounds kind of weird. Well, yeah, it is. It's not very common. And here's the thing. I built the cabinet. Okay, I used vintage era correct cloth. And it's a nice, sturdy, stout little cabinet. It's got the corner pieces, and it's got a nice Fender emblem on it and everything. But what's so special about this amp are the speakers. If anybody knows anything about Fender amps, the vintage Fenders, they started by using Jensen speakers. Most of the old, really good Fender speakers had Jensens in them. And then I think at some point, they might have turned to the Eminence. Eminence are awesome speakers. But these are actually stamped Fender speakers. They're NOS, and they're from the late 60s or early 70s. I got my hands on these, and they were NOS, and I got a quad of them. So we built a 4/8 cabinet, and you want to talk about a throaty sound coming out of this Marshall through this cabinet. It is awesome. So we got it mic'd through a Phantom Power mic there, and we got another mic for us talking. We got the things wired up. So what we're going to do today is, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the amp as we did. We're going to check out the tones and stuff. But more importantly, I don't want to waste my time just playing and stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about techniques. And in particular, we're going to talk about slide techniques. Slide is almost becoming a lost art, especially if you want to play slide in a standard tuning. It's pretty difficult, but there's a reason for that. Okay, we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about some techniques to help you get through the first phase of learning how to play slide in a standard. And that usually discourages people and they walk away from it. But if you stick with a few basic rules, hopefully you can stay in there for the long run and learn slide, because there's very few people who can play slide in the standard. It's difficult, but anybody can do it. So let's get wired up. Let's get the guitar cranking. Okay, everybody, we are back. We're set up. We got our little Marshall, just a breathing fire. And we're going to be talking about music today. And when we're talking Marshalls, what's the first poster child that you think of when you think of Marshall?
Hendrix. Oh, plexis. That's all he had. Plexis over plexis over plexis.
You gotta bring up Hendrix. We're gonna talk about Hendrix because Hendrix invented the Marshall sound. He was the poster child for the plexis, man. He had
That's all he had.
walls and walls of plexis. Now, when we get into AC/DC, these guys used JMPs and they used the JTM 45s. They used they used a little bit of plexis. They used the 50 watters and the 100 watters and all of that stuff. Hendrix was strict plexis, man. He used wall 100 watt plexis. So when I think of Hendrix, you cannot bring up Hendrix without bringing up Muddy Waters.
That was like, it's like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Albert King. That's like his look up.
Stevie Ray Vaughan and Albert King. Yes. So when we're talking Hendrix, you got to talk Muddy Waters. And you know, before Jimi Hendrix got into the whole experience thing,
he was more straight blues.
He was more straight blues. He got into
Red House, like he had those tough songs. Red House, Purple Haze, all those. Like.
Yeah, Purple Haze came a little bit later.
Yeah, it's still psychotic.
Yeah, so he did a tribute to Muddy Waters when he did the Born Under a Bad Sun.
Oh yeah, that was a killer one. That's like an 8-minute thing, and you can watch it. You can see it on Spotify, but the Muddy Waters one you can't find because that's the most good songs you have to pay for. Like on YouTube, if you want to find Jimi Hendrix a song, you can't. You have to have Spotify. But it's a really good song.
Sorry about that. We got a little bit of a fly problem, but anyways.
The fly.
So one of the things Hendrix did was he had a way of portraying aggression that I always admire, and it had nothing to do with speed.
It's what, like, you can't replicate him. He's like one of those type of guys. Like, if you want to sound like him, you have to be him. Like,
yeah, he was one of those few guys, but his take on his aggression and his playing had nothing to do with speed. It had nothing to do with anything other than dynamics. This guy used dynamics like you wouldn't believe, and that had to do with speed. That had to do with phrasing. That had to do with
lyrics and matches.
I mean,
like,
all of that stuff. When you put it all together, this guy was able to create, especially when he did Muddy Waters.
He has his own genre of music.
He was able to emulate aggression like nobody else, And one of the things I picked up from Jimi Hendrix is he always did that. So that's why we are discussing Jimi Hendrix today, is because we're talking to Marshall. Now, the other thing we're going to talk about today
Is the slide.
is the slide. Very important. There's so many people that get intimidated by the slide, and it is slowly becoming a lost art. And it should. It really should. Because one of the best things you can do to start playing slide is get rid of the pick. Get rid of the pick and start using your fingers.
Because the pick, it basically turns your fingers into one little fake thing. Like, so look at a pick. See, this is a pick. You just wasted three. You just wasted 3 fingers on one thing.
Depending on how you hold it, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose at least 2 fingers.
Yeah, and it's better.
Hold it.
Yeah, if you have just your bare fingers, it's good because you have a lot more technique. You can speed up faster, and you can hit chords at the same time. It's not like with a pick you can't strum it, so it goes right after. It's
Yeah.
at the same
So
time.
basically, I think what he's trying to say is you got a lot more control when you got 5 fingers working for you rather than one pick. So
Yeah.
what we're going to talk about when we talk about slide is there's slide playing in 2 forms. First, you can play it in an open tuning. So there's a lot of people, most of the people I would say play it in open tunings, and there's a reason for that. Because when you tune a guitar to an open chord, right, you're surrounded by a lot of notes that are more friendly notes. So if they do sound off,
Yeah, if you hit a wrong note, it's not gonna.
well, it's not about hitting notes, okay? Slide playing has to do a lot about
your technique.
keeping the notes that you don't want to sound,
Away.
to keeping them silent. And that's a lot of what slide playing is. In fact, when you look at whatever note that you're playing, you probably have to keep 4 to 5 other notes silent to be able to play the one you want to do. And that's what's difficult about slide playing. So what we're going to do is, and a lot of people stay away from the standard tuning slide playing because you're surrounded by a lot more enemy notes that when they sound off,
They try to attack you.
it's going to sound bad, you know? So palm, that's the number one thing that you have to do is get rid of the pick and use your palm. Palm is so important. So that right there sits nice and flat right against every single string. That's going to keep all those things quiet.
It's around your first pickup. Next to
Yeah,
your,
approximately. So let's do something. So before I even pick up the slide, I'm going to show you how I use my 5 fingers, my thumb, my palm, and all of these guys to play something simple. You know, so we go. 5 fingers. I'm using 5 fingers, and I keep the train moving. I keep the train moving because at no point does any of it come to an abrupt stop. You know, I can keep it all going between my palm and my fingers, and when you're talking slide, everything I just did with my fingers can apply now to a slide. So let's do that. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the palm, and I'm going to keep those notes that don't need to be heard. I'm going to keep them quiet, right? And I'm going to play just the notes that I want. Slides, that's why it's difficult. You got all these notes that want to sound off. You got to keep all those guys shut up, you know what I mean? So that's what we're going to do. Now, it's a tool, okay? So we're going to use our finger first, and then we're going to come in with the slide. Again, I'm using my palm to only have you hear the notes that you're supposed to hear. I use a lot of the palm to keep the other notes quiet. That was our episode for Garage Groove this week. We concentrated a little bit more on music this week. We're waiting on parts, as you know, for some of our projects. But the guitar techniques, I'm not an instructor, but they do matter. The techniques will make a difference between successfully grasping an art or ultimately walking away from it. So please, if that's something you're into right now or you have in the past, pick it up and try getting used to using your fingers and go about it that way. I hope that helps. Again, thank you for joining us for Garage Groove. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking. Please stay with us. We'll see you soon. Have a good evening.